What is up, guys? Welcome on back to the news with TK. And this was a unexpected, I guess you would call it a late night filing, as the Wall Street Journal just jumped out there and published something that they said is the president. I don't know if they can verify it, and they may have opened themselves up to a fat lawsuit from the president. But not only does that happen, but then the president fires back with a tweet or a post on Truth Social directing Pam Bondi to release grand jury files. Remember, I said that was the one thing that was going to happen for them to move to get that. But will these liberal judges in New York actually grant the unsealing of these grand jury files? That is yet to be seen. Let's get into it. So what is up, guys? Welcome on back to the news with TK. Again, this is completely unexpected. I didn't expect to be doing another video with you guys today, but here we are. And the Epstein case continues to get crazier and crazier. And the president posted basically that since there's so much public interest in this, and since you guys really want all the information, we're going to move. I'm going to direct my attorney general to move to unseal grand jury testimony. Now, the only issue I have with that is, and we're going to get into a live now clip from Fox here in a second, but the only issue I have with that is Ghislaine Maxwell, I believe, is going through appeals right now. So anything tied to her case, I don't think they're going to be able to unseal. It would be hard unless the government concedes defeat in her case, offers her immunity or a pardon or a commutation or something along those lines. And then I could see them just unsealing hers and Jeffrey Epstein's. Now, Epstein's dead. He was never convicted, I guess, of the federal case, right? He was going through it when he committed or unalived himself. I had to be careful what we say here on YouTube. But needless to say, I saw this clip from Live Now, and they get into it. They go over the president's post. Let's go ahead and take a look at that, and then we'll come back.
Welcome back in Alive Now. I'm Austin Westfall, a live look at the White House, where it's just past 10:30 in the nation's capital. All right, let's get the latest on Epstein, the situation that continues to unfold. We do know that the Wall Street Journal released some exclusive reporting today, and President Trump responding to that reporting with this on Truth Social. He says the Wall Street Journal and Rupert Murdoch personally were warned directly by President Donald J. Trump that the supposed letter they printed by President Trump to Epstein was a fake. And if they print it, they'll be sued. Mr. Murdoch stated that he would take care of it, but obviously did not have the power to do so. The editor of the Wall Street Journal, Emma Tucker, was told directly by Caroline Leavitt and the president and by President Trump that the letter was a fake. But Emma Tucker didn't want to hear that. Instead, they're going with a false, malicious, and defamatory story anyway. President Trump will be suing the Wall Street Journal, News Corp, and Mr. Murdoch shortly. The press has to learn to be truthful and not rely on sources that probably don't even exist. Trump has already beaten George Stephanopoulos, ABC, 60 Minutes, CBS, and others, and looks forward to suing and holding accountable the once great Wall Street Journal. It has truly turned out to be a disgusting and filthy rag, and writing defamatory lies like this shows their desperation to remain relevant. If there were any truth at all on the Epstein hoax as it pertains to President Trump, this information would have been revealed by Comey, Brennan, Crooked Hillary, and other radical left lunatics years ago, Trump says on Truth Social. He finishes by saying it certainly would not have sat in a file waiting for Trump to have won 3 elections. This is yet another example of fake news. The president posting all of this on Truth Social, following it up with, based on the ridiculous amount of publicity given to Jeffrey Epstein, I've asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. This scam, perpetuated by the Democrats, should end right now, the president says. Pam Bondi then responding to that, saying, President Trump, we are ready to move the court tomorrow to unseal the grand jury transcripts. A lot to unpack here. Kalen Dees is here. He's with the Washington Examiner. Let's start from the beginning. Let's catch the evening audience up on everything that's happened today. What was that lengthy Truth Social post in response to? What did that bombshell Wall Street Journal report say?
Thanks for having me on, Austin. Yeah, so essentially, the Wall Street Journal report was saying that there were a number of letters that were sent to Epstein related to well wishes. I believe it was around a birthday for Epstein, and it was, including Trump as one of the people that was sending these messages out to Epstein. And Trump immediately, from the gate, said that this is fake stuff. This isn't something that I would have signed on to. There's plenty of speculation out there about, people, coming to his defense saying, was it just something that he signed, things like that. But obviously, it's not a good look if it looks like, the president before, when he wasn't the president, was sending these well wishes, even though we all know that Donald Trump disavowed Epstein eventually, whenever he began to have some ill feelings about him. So, yes, it's not a good look amid this talk, especially whenever we're seeing a lack of transparency from an administration that has vowed to release more files from the Epstein case for months and months, and to get that two-page memo last week that said they're essentially done with the investigation and release of information. It's not necessarily a good look, although we see now that the president is going to file a lawsuit, or says he's going to file a lawsuit. So that's where it takes us now.
He is going to file a lawsuit against LiveNow's parent company. I should mention, this is what Attorney General Pam Bondi is saying. President Trump, we are ready to move the court tomorrow to unseal the grand jury transcripts. Do we have any clarity, Kaylin, as to where this is headed? What could come of this?
Yeah, so it's a great question, because if you go online right now, you're seeing a lot of people, a lot of influencers saying that this is Pam Bondi's move to release more Epstein files, which in effect, if you're reading the tweet as it stands, it looks like she's moving to release more files. But the question that really should pop out to everyone is, what exactly can they do to compel a court to do this? As we saw from Trump's post, he gave a lot of deference to the courts if they're willing and able to release some of these grand jury transcripts, or testimony, as he put it. So the real question is, we haven't seen the DOJ yet make a filing or a move to release some of these grand jury filings. It's not even clear. They didn't specify what case this is, although the assumption is that it's the closed criminal case for Jeffrey Epstein, closed after his death, as it was never able to go to a trial. So we're assuming that it's coming from something related to that case. But the real thing that is perplexing is that this is something that the DOJ could have done a long time ago if it wanted to. They could have already begun this process. So it's almost giving off the impression that this is something that they're just now deciding to do, even after they released the memo and made it seem like that they were done releasing information for now. So it's quite perplexing from that standpoint, because you would wonder why they didn't do this before. And again, just because the Attorney General is saying that she's going to follow Trump's lead in order to do this doesn't necessarily mean that tomorrow we're going to be getting unsealed filings. Though I will say it does come as, people have been saying, from our reporting last week, we got Alan Dershowitz to say that this was not a DOJ problem, that it was a judge problem. So it seems like there's a little bit of a bend toward that narrative, at least coming from the White House.
Caitlin, this is what the VP is saying. He says, "Forgive my language, but this story is complete and utter BS. The Wall Street Journal should be ashamed for publishing it. Where is this letter? Would you be shocked to learn they never showed it to us before publishing it? Does anyone honestly believe this sounds like Donald Trump?" I believe it continues. Yes. Doesn't it violate some rule of journalistic ethics to publish a letter like this without showing it to the victim of this hit piece? Well, the people who have bought into every hoax against President Trump show an ounce of skepticism before buying into this bizarre story. So we're getting reaction from President Trump, Attorney General Bondi, and VP Vance tonight. You've been following this story now, as have we. Does it feel like it's actually possible to quench the appetite for more Epstein information that's out there?
Well, if you take a look at what is been said and done with this case, all we know at this point is that there are still sealed filings out there from both civil and criminal cases and sealed filings in the Ghislaine Maxwell case, which I would argue is going to be a difficult one to pry open, at least while she is still going through her appeals. So we know that there is some information related to this. We also know that there's apparently a vault out there containing thousands of FBI related documents surrounding the Epstein case. And also, we've heard from court testimony over the years that some of the evidence that was being looked into at Epstein's properties also went missing. So there's a whole sort of cornucopia of possible information that still exists out there. What we would maybe find from these transcripts, as they're being called by the attorney general, could be another ounce or added layer of transparency. It could maybe include hearsay or some names of people that were allegedly involved in Epstein, whether it was for alleged criminal activity or whether it was just somehow they were in the same room together for some reason. That is the type of information that could be relayed through transcripts, although we can't say, there's no way any of us can know. And again, I will stress, there's no way it will be clear that we will actually be able to obtain this information until we see a judge's response.
So there is your breaking news. That is all the information that is out currently. The vice president has now responded. Pam Bondi did respond and say she will move the court to unseal those documents in the morning. We could get a lot of information on this in a very short amount of time, and it could be huge. Also, I'm looking forward to seeing how the lawsuit goes. Is it the DOJ that now sues because he's the president, or will he have to get a private attorney to sue News Corp? Because that's who owns Fox and the Wall Street Journal. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that vein as well. I don't understand a publication like the Wall Street Journal publishing something like that without verifying it first, right? I don't get it. And look, whether you're the biggest Trump hater or you're a Trump fan, one thing I can say for sure is, like, hearing how some of that went back and forth from the Wall Street Journal post, it just didn't make any sense to me. It didn't sound like the president at all. But hey, maybe the Wall Street Journal has some kind of verification or something they'll be able to use to back it up. But the president has vehemently denied it, said it's not him. He didn't send these letters. And be interesting to see what happens, because it's going to go to court. And if we're just talking track record, every time the president has sued somebody for defamation or fake news, if that's what you want to call it, he's won. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Give the video a big thumbs up if you like what I do. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, stay petty, my friends.